January meeting of the Park and Rec Board. If we could all stand and say our Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As this is our first meeting of the year, it's reorganization time, and we will accept nominations for chair of the Park and Rec Board. Any nominations from the floor?
Yes, Tom, I'd like to nominate Fenton Fitzpatrick for chair, please.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Nominations for vice chair.
Tom, I'd like to nominate Michael Glenn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Fenton is out of town right now. I heard that we were going to have snow, and he didn't want to be anywhere around here. So in light of that, Michael, if you would take over as chair.
Thank you, Tom.
And just move over here if we really need to. You need a hammer.
You might want to move your name tags too.
Good evening. I believe we've all received the minutes. I'd like to have a motion to approve the December minutes.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
No, for the record, I abstained since I wasn't here.
Fair enough. Announcements?
Announcements. Board of Commissioners meetings will take place on Monday, January 24th, and Monday, February 14th at 7 p.m. at the Radnor Township building. The next Parks and Recreation Board meeting will take place on Thursday, February 10th at the Willows at 6:30 p.m. The Hoops from the Heart Basketball Clinic will take place on Monday, January 17th at Cabrini College from 9 to 12 p.m. Radnor Wayne Little League signups will take place in person Saturday, January 22nd at Radnor Elementary School from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. The Radnor Youth Basketball Photo Days will take place Saturday, January 22nd and Saturday, January 29th at Radnor Elementary School. Please check the RadnorSports.com website. Next week, we'll be posting times and information on when your scheduled photo day, photo time slot will take place. The winter and spring activities brochure and schedule of programs is now available at our website at www.radnorparksandrecreation.com. Be sure to check it out. And please feel free to contact our department at 610-688-5600 for more information and to register for any of the programs we have available.
Thank you, Tammy. Would you like to continue with the activities report?
Activities report for December 2010. In December, the Parks and Recreation Department wrapped up a number of fall programs, wrapped up a number of fall programs and actually began winter programs. Fall programs that were wrapped up include the men's basketball program, winter basketball camp, tennis and squash, after-school science, and after-school chess. We also kicked off the Radnor Youth Basketball program and the Griffin Volleyball program. Holiday at the Willows took place on Sunday, December 12th with great success. We had over 200 people in attendance. A special thank you goes out to our sponsor, TD Bank, for funding this wonderful holiday event, and to the Radnor Township Girl Scouts for providing the planning and delivery of many creative crafts and activities for the children who were in attendance. Our annual excursion to New York City was also a success on Saturday, December 4th, with over 38 people in attendance. We're currently wrapping up a number of these fall programs that have concluded. Registrations for Radnor Youth Basketball are near 1,100, and there are 90 total teams in the Youth League program, and there are 18 total youth hoops groups taking part in the program. We are currently taking registrations for upcoming winter and spring 2011 programs, including junior soccer, 5-star preschool sports, Hoops from the Heart Basketball Clinic, spring break chess camp, babysitters training, spring break soccer camp, golf lessons, Saturday theater program, cardio core, and more. And we also are planning some additional winter spring programs, and we're finalizing the details. These include the Scoop lacrosse program, orienteering, and a trip to New York City for the spring. The activities brochure has been posted, as I had mentioned before, on the website at www.parksandrecreation.com. Our department is also busy in engaging the summer planning process, and we are coordinating with our instructors, inclusive of some new and previously offered camps. We have submitted the sponsorship application and letter of request to TD Bank, and have been in touch with Penn Medicine Radnor for support for our anticipated 2011 summer concert series. We are in the process of also receiving job applications for summer 2011 camp employment, and we're working with the area colleges and universities to circulate job postings. We have also received notification of receipt of a programming grant, in the amount of $5,000 from the Department of Community and Economic Development for Radnor Activity Center at Sulpizio Gymnasium. Our department will begin evaluating potential programs and events that can be offered in compliance with the grant in accordance with the corresponding timelines. Our department has also been in the process of reviewing many administrative operations and operational guidelines. We've been working to develop a computerized system for handling our park reservations. We've been working on a document that will guide program and event operations, and determining different procedures for recording our income data and other important items. For winter recreation enthusiasts, sledding and ice skating are permitted at your own risk in the designated areas of township parks. Please park in the respective parking lots and not along the roadways at these facilities or parks. Please be safe and use good judgment while participating in these forms of recreation. In addition to programming, usage at Radnor Activity Center at Sulpizio Gymnasium is also being coordinated. 10 rentals took place in December for activities such as basketball and birthday parties. We continue to coordinate and schedule the facility with various private and public groups within the community, such as Radnor Middle School and our department's winter recreational usage. Recent building inspections did take place at the Radnor Activity Center at Sulpizio Gymnasium, and current information on violations is being reviewed by the township staff in further detail. The Willows Mansion hosted 14 events in December, and 4, I believe, are presently scheduled for January. The craft show took place in December and is estimated that over 3,000 people were in attendance. Building inspections also took place at the Willows, and that information and violations are also being reviewed by township staff in further detail. In regards to the Willows Park, I am also in the process of reviewing potential sign replacement and a plan with a representative of the Friends of the Willows Cottage for the Willows entrance. Once further information has been established, it will be presented to the Parks and Recreation Board for input. Radnor Township Parks and Recreation had received a grant from DCED for park signage at Emlyn, Tennell, and Clemacrone Parks. I'm happy to announce that the park signage is in place and it looks spectacular. I wanted to take a moment to thank all the members of the Garrett Hill community who were on site and helped me the day that we had the installation, as well as members of the Public Works Department who helped with this endeavor. If you get a chance and you're in the Rosemont area, please stop by and take a look at the park signs. They look great. The $100,000 grant received from DCNR for Cowan Park is currently being reviewed for park improvements, and to ensure compliance with the grant and the township codes, we have received proposals for an architectural design of a standard comfort station footprint that would be applied at Cowan, as well as future comfort stations that are added or replaced at other township parks. The proposal details are currently being reviewed by our Public Works Director and myself in anticipation of an upcoming award of bid. We're also reviewing the timeline for which the grant must be completed more closely. The Agnes Irwin School had submitted a proposal to Radnor Township for a development possibility at Radnor Memorial Park that includes the construction of an artificial turf field. The proposal was reviewed by the Parks and Recreation Board, who unanimously supported it at their December meeting. Representatives from the Agnes Irwin School will present the proposal to the Board of Commissioners on Monday, January 24th. For more information and updates on what is happening in the Radnor Township Parks and Recreation Department, please be sure to check out the weekly reports posted at www.radnor.com under Featured News. These are updated generally on Thursday of each week. And this concludes my report for December 2010.
Thank you, Tammy. Excellent job.
Thanks.
Do we have a Shade Tree Commission report? I don't think we do. Steve, would you like to give an update on activities with the school board?
Yeah, thank you, Mike. Just wanted to invite the entire community, all those interested, school board's annual initial budget workshop meeting is this Saturday morning in this very room. I'm not sure the exact start time, but you should be able to find it on the school district website. It's a critically important meeting at a critically important time for the school district and the community at large as the school district begins to tackle its budget for the 2011-2012 school year and deal with the fiscal crisis that is affecting all of public education regionally, statewide, and nationally due to the state's pension obligations to which all 500 school districts in the state have to contribute, mandatory, and dealing with also ongoing health care insurance premium spikes, so that it puts real stress on the school district budget that is otherwise constrained by limited revenues due to the Great Recession and limited ability to raise revenue, and otherwise pretty responsible spending, but for pension obligations and health insurance premium increases that far exceed any percentages that are otherwise found in the budgets. So that's something that people who have an interest in this should really come out and get engaged with that. So thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Are there any other committee reports or EAC report? Commissioners update? John?
We had a reorganization meeting this past week, and in addition to that, next meeting on the 24th, we will be assigning the subcommittees. So I don't expect any changes, but we'll keep you posted on that. The other thing, the fee schedule is currently on the schedule for the 24th, although we've had some discussions about certain parts of the fee schedule not being approved at that time, of which the Parks and Rec fees are some of those. So again, we'll keep you posted on that. That's all I have.
Thank you, John. I appreciate that. Now turning to new business, I believe we have an Eagle Scout presentation regarding the Brook Farm Trail.
Kevin Yim was here to talk, he's supposed to be here to talk about his presentation, but he's currently not present.
Okay, thank you. Community project development is the next item on our agenda.
Do you want to take that, or do you want me to go with that?
Would you take that, please,
Sure,
Tammy?
absolutely. I'd like to begin starting to explore ideas and notions in terms of trying to come up with ways or ideas and projects that we can perhaps engage community members, i.e. scout groups, the school district community service groups such as the watershed, school guidance counselors in terms of helping to aid students in terms of getting community service types of experiences that can help with their resumes and entries to college. And I'd like to evaluate ways that we can maybe engage a process where we can try and get some of the low maintenance park improvements done within the community here in Radnor. As everybody knows, we're in a tight budget circumstance currently, and I want to try to think creatively about ways that we can try to engage groups, and maybe develop a plan for how we can try and accomplish some of these tasks throughout this year and perhaps next. So I didn't know if there's a formal way we have to go about doing that, and I wanted to engage the Parks Board throughout that process. And I think eventually we would have to develop a priority list of how we would want to go, park by park and project by project in order to accomplish the items that we know.
I would
are out
think
there.
that there would be low-hanging fruit, if you will, or things that didn't require the professional expertise of the township that we could identify in our various committees and then submit them to you for consideration, see if you would be comfortable at the township level with those sorts of activities being passed to various volunteer groups. And I think our subcommittees could probably identify a list of those for you to consider.
Okay, that sounds good.
Any other thoughts or comments on that? Is that a reasonable way to proceed?
It makes a lot of sense.
Okay, thank you.
Kevin Yim
Kevin?
is here. Kevin Yim is going to make a presentation regarding his Eagle Scout project proposal, and he's going to be planning to do some improvements and enhancements along the Brook Farm Trail. Thank you for being here, Kevin.
Thank you. My name is Kevin Yim, and I'm a Life Scout in Radnor Boy Scout Troop 284. For my project, I intend to restore the Brook Farm Trail, which is by the Wayne Elementary School, and it's part of the Willows Trail System, I believe. Currently, the trail is suffering from extreme overgrowth and vegetation, which makes it difficult to traverse. So, also the blazes on the trail are fading, and the blazes are the little marks on the trees which show you which way the trail goes. And finally, the places where the trail crosses the nearby stream are very treacherous and difficult. So for my project, first of all, I intend to clear the overgrowth through the trails to make it easier to walk through. And I also intend to repaint the blazes on the trail. And lastly, I'm going to recreate some sort of stable stream crossings, mostly by rearranging the stones in the stream to create stepping stones for hikers to use across the stream. I will be helped in my project by the scouts in my troop, and my project will start around the end of February and will last for about a month.
That sounds excellent, Kevin. Is there any support or cooperation you need from the Park and Rec Board to facilitate your doing this effort?
Well, I believe that something has been arranged for the debris that I'm going to collect through my project to be picked up at the end of my project, but that's fine.
That's excellent. We thank you very much for coming to present that to us this evening, and we wish you well with the project.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
I think our next item is an open-air affairs presentation on the Willows.
Larry Ott is in attendance tonight on behalf of Open Air Affairs, and he's going to make a presentation about venue operation improvements and enhancements at the Willows Mansion.
Welcome, Larry. Thank you for coming.
The Parks Board members, we had made copies of the presentation for you, so you should have those.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for having me out. I really appreciate it. I have a brief little presentation here, which I think everybody has probably seen, so if you're bored with it, please tell me to stop talking. But I don't know if that comes up or not. Basically, what it does is it tries to define what our company is. Our company is a venue management company. What we do is we partner with unique locations, historic locations, and either create or help enhance the venue operations that they have on that property. We have some notable properties that are partners with us. The Pearl Buck Estate in Percy, Pennsylvania, is probably our most popular property. Oh, there it is. The Philadelphia Waterworks, which is downtown behind the Art Museum, is a great venue. We love that venue, but that's one of our partners as well. We have some other properties which are a little lesser known. We've got three other properties and three other properties in existence right now, and two other ones that are being developed right now. What we do is we become the focal point for event operations. When people are searching out a venue, when brides are looking for a venue, when event planners are looking for a venue, they're looking to just try to find that perfect place. We become a hub for that. They call us because we have so many under our umbrella that they call us, so it's a kind of a one-stop shopping for them. So to a venue or a unique property, we're a partner, but to a client or bride or planner, we're a resource for them. So what we do is become a resource all the way throughout the planning operations. Different locations all over the Delaware Valley. Different styles. We have indoor venues like the Philadelphia Waterworks. Front and Palmer is another venue. We also have outdoor locations like Pearl S. Buck Estate or the Sandcastle Winery. The Willows offers us the ability, if we were able to partner with Radnor Township at the Willows, offers us a very unique opportunity to capitalize on the mainline lure to a very large demographic. We do not have a venue that's out in this area, and we need one because the phone calls and the emails and the texts are all coming in, and we don't have a place to place them right now. And how do we do this? We basically advertise for our company. We advertise for the properties. There are a number of different avenues, a number of different mediums that we advertise in, open air fairs, bridal publications, and so on. Once we're done advertising, then we have to sell it. Now we have to talk to everybody that calls, everybody that contacts us in any way via email, like I said, phone calls. The meetings that we have open houses at our various venues so that people can come out, experience the property, and we have our own sales staff that sell the property to the brides and the wedding planners and the corporate planners that are out there. We then help plan. Once it's booked, we then help plan the event. We are in the middle, we are as involved or uninvolved in their event operation or their event planning as they want us to be. We are very deeply rooted in the event community. We are a member of a number of different hospitality organizations. I was the president of the Greater Philadelphia chapter of ISIS, which is the International Special Event Society last year. We are members of Chambers of Commerce. We are members of, or attend regularly to NACE meetings, which is a catering operation. And those are just a couple of them. We go to national conferences all the time to spread the word of what our organization is and what it does and how these different event professionals can contact us to find the right venue for their clients. And then what does this mean for the Willows? When we partner with a location, there is no out-of-pocket expenses. What we do is we go into, and I'm going to use Pearl Buck as an example because it's probably the most closely related to the Willows. It's a historic property. It's a beautiful property. It has a number of acres surrounding it. And what we've done is we've constructed a tent on that property. We leave that tent up from March through November, and we sell events to that property. Now, Pearl Buck has yet to pay us a dime, and we are now in our 6th year, if I'm not mistaken. They don't pay us anything. It is a true partnership. The clients that come in pay a site fee directly to Pearl Buck, and then they pay a fee to Open Air Affairs for the event elements to their event. Things like the tent, the tables and chairs, and things like that. Our involvement at each property is very, very different. At Pearl Buck and Sandcastle Winery, we are 100% their event operations. If somebody tries to call up one of these organizations, they're not able to speak to anybody about an event. They just won't talk to you. They'll say, call Larry, here's his cell phone number, or here's the office number, or here's a couple of the cell phone number is what they give out the most, by the way. But down at the Philadelphia Waterworks, they have a system already in place, and all we do is enhance it. How people find a venue is very, very different from person to person. Sometimes people find the Philadelphia Waterworks by themselves. Other times they'll find us first. And the nature of the relationship that we have down there, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they find us. It doesn't matter if they find the Waterworks. In the end, you're paying the same amount. You're getting the same service for the same event. It has to be that way. Otherwise, it just doesn't work. So you can kind of see there's different varying degrees of how we are involved in the event operations of different properties. But the main thrust of it is that none of our properties pay for that. We sit there and buy the tents. We have the tents in inventory. We put the elements all together to put at the property so that there isn't any kind of outlay of expenditures that go along to it. And that's just a silly little thing. But that's pretty much our presentation. It's actually very, very short, very simple. Some of the ideas that we had for the Willows, some of the thoughts that we had for the Willows, operationally and logistically, we don't know yet because we need to find out from you and from Mary, what do you want from the Willows. Once you tell us that, then we can turn around and say, here's what our proposal is. We propose to put a 30 by 90 tent off the back. That's going to handle reception space. You now can handle larger events, but it's not going to block the house, and dancing is going to take place inside because it's going to be less noisy for the neighbors. Any other possibilities really come down to what you say to us. And can I answer any of your questions?
Have you toured the facility?
Yes, I have.
And I imagine that you probably have some initial thoughts about what things would be successful and what would work.
I just gave it to you, actually.
I imagine that you would meet with Mary and the other folks in the township that are responsible for the Willows and come up with an action plan.
Absolutely.
And then come back with a specific proposal of how a working relationship would happen.
Absolutely.
That's wonderful. Other questions?
I'd actually just like to hear what Mary has to say about this, since she's the one most intimately involved with the Willows.
Yes, Larry, I know you have done some tenting in the past at the Willows, and I think the idea of putting what we consider a seasonal tent at the Willows is always, it opens up a whole other avenue to accommodate the larger numbers that we cannot accommodate indoors. So I think it's a win-win situation to have that larger area available to clients. That's my opinion.
What are your thoughts on the condition of the facilities at this point? Are we going to have to put money into it to, beef up the kitchen to get larger receptions there, or paint a room, or we have one bathroom on the first floor? Is that enough? What are your thoughts from there?
To tell you the truth, I wouldn't put anything necessarily into it at first. I probably would see how the relationship goes and how we progress, and let the money that we generate help fund those improvements. When people come into a property, when they book one of our historic properties, they love the idea that their fee is going towards that property. It creates a bit of history. It creates a bond between them and the property. The property is gorgeous. The property is beautiful. The mansion is gorgeous and beautiful. Yes, we would like to have more restrooms, but that can be accomplished without actually installing restrooms. We've had locations where we've used temporary, they're not portable restrooms, they're not porta potties by any means, but you should see the
We got one
brides.
there up there now, so it doesn't matter. We already got one of those.
These are nicer than the bathrooms in my house, trust me. But we've brought them in and the style of tenting that we utilize is very, very flexible in the fact that I can literally pull them into the tent, put a wall up, a privacy wall up, and have them remain there for the season, which is what we've done at other properties. We had another property, it was owned by a township, and it was extremely popular. We were doing about 36 events, 36 weddings per year, besides all the community events and besides all the other events that took place on the property. And we realized that what we needed to do was pull the restroom into it so that it can be utilized all the time, and just had it serviced, from week to week or from event to event. Mm-hmm. In terms of other things like the kitchen or what have you, to tell you the truth, I'd probably shut the kitchen down to outside events. What I would do is put up a catering tent on the outside, something that's accessible by the driveway, a little bit closer to the driveway so the caterers have a place to park their vehicles, and they're able to access it very quickly, and then we can outfit it from event to event with whatever they need. The off-premise catering business is probably the most versatile, unbelievable, these guys do backflips with nothing, kind of an industry. So they don't necessarily need anything, but as we progress forward, upgrading the kitchen, making it more easier to use for these caterers is a benefit, because while people don't call caterers to find a place for their event, it is a rare occurrence, but I shouldn't say that it's not that they don't, it's just a very rare occurrence. They're usually finding the venue first. But the more affable you are to a caterer, the more that it's going to be up on their website, it's going to be on their Facebook page, it's going to be in their blogs, and it's going to be on their Twitter accounts and things like that. That's what drives your traffic to you. It's, oh my God, this caterer used this place. Look at these pictures. They're phenomenal. No, gosh, this photographer did the same thing. Oh my gosh, look at how wonderful this is. I've got to go see that place.
Larry, from your walkthrough of the facility, okay, obviously it's, with the tent, you're talking about weddings, okay? What other affairs would you see that place capable of handling?
The mitzvah market is growing. The way that the mitzvah market is right now, or has been in the last number of years, is that they would be at the synagogues. That's generally where the events are being held, or they're at very familiar places, and they're looking for a place where they can have a bar, bat mitzvah, or benai mitzvah, and they can bring in their own caterer, kosher caterer, what have you. While there's still a wedding, this is another market that's found us and really is starting to latch on to us, are very ethnic weddings where they want to bring in their own caterer. Indian weddings are a very prime example. We do see a lot of Indian weddings per year because you're able to bring in your caterer. Our facilities are usually larger than a typical restaurant or what have you, so they're able to invite their full guest list, have the cuisine of their nationality, so it goes very well. Corporate events are starting to come out of their shell. The recession is done. At least somebody told me that. You know, I believe them. Everybody keeps saying it, trust me. But you know, people are starting to spend a little bit more. They're not going crazy. They're not going to sit there and do the over-the-top parties. But they do want to do the team building. They do want to do the outside events outside of their break rooms, or instead of having the company picnic out on their grounds, they want to actually go somewhere. So those are starting again. Some of the different shows that are out there, I'm trying to think, there's charity events, things like fashion shows and things like that. They're starting to come out as well. People were not able to spend money on charities, so basically a lot of nonprofits just kind of went into the cave and shored up for a little while. Now they're starting to come back out, and now people are starting to spend a little bit more, and they're starting to give a little bit more. So the charity event should start peaking pretty soon. We're starting to see a little bit of it, so I would probably say we're probably another year or so away from them really coming back in force.
Now, you were saying that the Buck Estate is the closest comparable
That's correct.
to the Willows. Do you have any knowledge of, I guess, were they working with another outfit similar to yours prior
Yes.
to you get involved?
They were working with a lot of facilities. What they'll do is they will bond with a caterer, and the caterer becomes the sole caterer for that property. They become the exclusive caterer, or they have an exclusive catering list, like say 2 or 3 caterers or what have you. The issue being is that people don't, like I said before, people don't necessarily call the caterer to find their location. They're calling the location, and then they find their caterer. So the year before we became involved with the Pearl Buck Estate, they did, depends on who you talk to, either 2 or 4 weddings. We're going to probably do about, if I remember our calendar correctly, about 56 this year.
Okay.
So it absolutely is a formula that works. We're very proud of it.
Other comments or questions? John, anything you'd like to add? Tammy? Mary? No? Larry, thank you very much. That was very informative,
Thank you.
and we're excited about the opportunity to work with you.
I appreciate your time. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
I'd like to table the old business item with a discussion of the Willows, and maybe have Mr. Pollack come up with regard to the cemetery acquisition on West Wayne Avenue. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. I wear many hats. I'm a founding member of the Friends of the Willows Cottage. So this discussion tonight was very heartwarming.
Good.
Also, for your information, we are hosting a discussion by Beth Goldmeyer, who grew up at the Willows. Her father was a caretaker. She grew up with the cottage in early April. And she has artifacts from the cottage, And the mansion, including a portrait of it by Mrs. Anzinger, that she will be presenting to the Historical Society, and maybe we can showcase it at the mansion.
That would be
But that'd be
wonderful.
wonderful. It's really pretty cool.
Yeah.
And she's also given us, I guess, about 30 photographs of things that were there back when she lived there. Wonderful things we've never even seen before.
Oh, that would be a fantastic
Yeah, so
exhibit.
Make a nice display. So we're very excited about that. And also, another hat I wear, the natatorium. You're talking about Cowan Field and the comfort station. Well, back in October, we installed a large historic marker, the blue markers you see around Pennsylvania, for the natatorium. But we've also raised funds to have a display case on the future comfort station. We've raised about $1,000 for that project. So I want you to be aware of it, and I won't be around probably when that happens. But I'm moving, but I want you to be aware of that so we have money available and we can raise some more if we need to.
Well, that's an outstanding effort, and we certainly hope you're around.
Yes, I hope not. Believe me, I don't like the cold weather. So I know you had some questions about the cemetery.
Yes, we do.
For some of your meetings, so I'd be glad to answer, then maybe discuss future use or whatever you might have in mind.
Okay. Well, we're generally in support of the township's initiative to acquire the property, and we greatly appreciate the efforts that you and your organization have had in moving the effort forward. We were wondering if you could share with us your thoughts on, following that acquisition, what you saw being the use and the maintenance of the cemetery so that it would be kept appropriately.
Well, when I first went through there a couple of years ago, the grass was waist high, with piles of debris all over the place. It was very embarrassing as a cemetery, the resting place of people's ancestors. And I walked through there many times as we started to develop our program, and really realized how peaceful it was there. So my first thought was, once you get all the crap cleaned out of it, let's make it into a pocket park. Put some benches there, get a nice cast iron Victorian fence, make it a restful place where people can come and read a book. Parks don't have to be places where you play games and have picnics. They can be a place where you take a book or your computer and just get some work done. The birds are there in full force, and you're close to Conestoga Road and West Wayne Avenue, but yet because of the elevation off the road, it's just very quiet. So it's lovely. So my hope would be that it would be turned into a park. The pocket park, the whole area is quite fully developed, and it'd be nice to have a nice green space right there, and it's so close to the trail and the schools that it'd be, I'm sure, used by quite a few people.
Are there any potential obstacles, either legal, with regard to people still owning plots, or the necessity of the utilization of that is possible that you're aware of?
I wouldn't think so. There was I can't say a burial there, but a Radnor teacher died, and his name was Nash, put on the gravestone. Didn't look like anything was dug. Maybe he was cremated. And we don't know, because we have heard from no other relatives, whether they have claims to those plots. And if not, perhaps some of the plots could be sold. There's some vacant land.
Well, would you foresee that it could still function as a cemetery, or has there been such inactivity that it no longer would be an active cemetery?
Well, the previous burial was in 1995 to this one, the Nash, a couple months ago. So I think it's pretty well dispersed. We've heard from a few relatives of people who have relatives buried there, but nobody said, well, I want to be buried there. And the bank that had the trust had no records whatsoever of claims from other people.
Interesting. It's interesting how a property like that evolves over time, and how it ends up the way it does.
Oh, yes. Well, the church that had it was on the corner where the medical supply place is, and that was knocked down in 1952, and the property was sold and went into a trust. And the trust, of course, as most trusts, go downhill. And that's what's happened. So the lady who lives next door, that little cute little house, got very excited, so we cleaned up her property too. So we're trying to beautify the whole community.
That is an attractive house.
So
Yes.
the house does not come with the cemetery?
No, it does
That's
not.
That's other private
We
property?
wish it did.
All right. Is there, in your opinion, are there organizations that could help the township maintain it or keep it in good shape so it's not something that we have to shoulder the whole burden, I guess?
Well, quite definitely. I'm president of the Radnor Historical Society, so we've pitched in. But we have the IAC, the American Legion. Villanova University has supplied students twice now, 15 students or more each time. And the Rotary Club now has stepped in with some manpower too. And we also had an Eagle Project there back in October. We had 24 people doing identification of Civil War veterans and make sure the flags are in the right place.
And did your organization, did the Historical Society coordinate all that, or how is all
Yes.
this happening?
Yes, I'm the
Okay. You're the coordinator.
coordinator, yep.
What happens when you're gone? You said you were going to be gone soon. We're a
Well,
little nervous.
the way to develop management, you have other people come in.
Okay, all right,
to
good.
sort them.
Good.
So we have about 35 people on our mailing list. And we have two other people who are, I might say, lieutenants in the organization, willing to take over. It's been a lot of fun.
Ted, what support would you need from the township to maintain it?
Well, first, we need you to take it over legally, because we can't really go raise money without having somebody as the owner.
Right.
We can go to get grants, go to the state. I've talked to Dale and Leach about this, and other organizations that raise some funds. But quite frankly, basic mowing, and we've been doing weed whacking. We've been doing some grave restoration work, and I'd like to see that continue, because some of the graves are darkened by age, and they can be cleaned and preserved so that the names don't disappear. You can put stone hardeners and things like that on the stones. So I think with a partnership between the township and a volunteer group, we can make it look quite nice. One of the ways that Don Curley had envisioned is having some pathways through the park that people can walk on, and they could be chips, or they could be I don't know if you've seen the big sheets of plastic that have holes that are filled with material very hard, and they're good walking surfaces. So you don't have to be mowed or anything like that. So we can come up with some kind of combination of ways to utilize the property without too much maintenance. And we've had several people mow, and find it's really not that difficult once you get it knocked
Get it
down.
under control.
It's when it gets to be this high,
Right.
it's difficult. So it's hard to say.
From whom would the township be acquiring ownership of the property?
What was the first part?
From whom would the township be acquiring ownership of the property?
That's a very good question. It was not on the tax records. It was an orphan completely. So John Rice, our solicitor, is going to do the transfer. He's done this before for other townships.
So in essence, the property's abandoned,
Yes.
so there'd be no actual cost to acquire the property?
No cost. He's doing the transfer pro bono, and maybe, there possibly might be title insurance. He wasn't sure. And maybe some court costs. We have to file papers at the courthouse.
But other than the de minimis transactional
Yes. No other costs.
expenses,
No.
there'd be no capital cost to acquire
No.
the property, because the owner, it's an abandoned property.
Correct. We've had two tree services come and take down probably about 40 or 50 trees, all pro bono. And we have the last phase of that should happen in the next couple of months. So we're trying to get everything knocked down to where it's nice and clean, and then we can maybe re-landscape.
Can you address maybe the accessibility to the community of the property, potential uses, uses for kids, or if any, safety, not wanting maybe for the positive uses?
How about a Halloween event?
There you go.
Or Gravedigger's Ball? Hey, they have one in Philadelphia. It's got a big wide gate that people can, it's not locked, people can go in. It's close to the trail, so if people are walking, they can divert to the cemetery. It's close, obviously, to the Friends of the Trail Park there, so they can park and walk over. It's got sidewalks, so it's easily accessible, from that standpoint. So uses, let people.
I like the idea, maybe a township children's Halloween party every year, right?
Yeah.
But I imagine that you envision the use being primarily passive.
Yes, yeah. Well, we don't want people to be rambunctious in there because some of the stones are
Sure.
Sure.
brittle and maybe knocked over, some have been knocked over.
Yeah, so open air is not going to have any affairs there. Paul and Bill, do you guys have any comments on this at all? As to what it will take maintenance-wise from the township?
I just put a few things together, and believe me, I'm not trying to be negative on this, but there's definitely, there's going to be some initial takeover things that need to be addressed, or at least talked about. Tree work, just when Paul and I visited the site, there's a lot of trees up there that still have dead wood in them. We looked at somewhere in the neighborhood of $5,000, after our conversations. Fencing, I got some pricing on fencing. There's 650 feet of fence up there. The fence that's up there now is not in that great a shape. A lot of times when township acquires properties, all of a sudden people know that the township owns the property. Now we need to address the aesthetics of the property. So you're looking at about 650 feet at about $15 a foot. That with gates, if you're going to cut it, you need to put some access in there so that I can get equipment in there to make the cutting. You're probably looking at $10,200. That's roughly on fencing and gates. There's going to be concrete work that would need to be done, an access ramp to get in there, some curbing along that to keep the soil in there. We're going to have to grade probably about 15 feet behind the fence to put a double gate in there so we can get the skags in there. As far as being ADA compliant, I think it's something you want to think about. The small gates that's in there now would have to be replaced. You would have to take those steps out. You'd have to put in a ramp with a flat area up top so that it was ADA accessible also. Just walking the ground before the snow, there is quite a few depressions. You're going to have to do some topsoil work and some seeding in there in order to get it to a place where it's just mowing. You want to try and get some kind of grass in there to stop some of the invasives and the vines. And the perimeter of the property still has a lot of, Ted's folks and the volunteers have done a great job, believe me, going in there and taking out some of the invasives. And but there's things that you're going to have to stay on top of in order to keep them down. You got to go in there with some soil. You're probably going to have to go in there with some type of Roundup in order to knock out what's in there now, and get some good soil in there and seed it so that you have something to cut, and so the invasives don't take over that stuff. As far as routine maintenance, it depends on what you're looking for as far as the cutting. Once you have access to it, we discussed 2 weeks, every 2 weeks, every three weeks. 2 to 3 weeks. Paul came up with some numbers on that. He also came up with some numbers on leaf cleanup and removal. That's something that's going to have to be done in the fall and the spring. And then you have the sidewalk, some repairs, and snow removal will be another responsibility. Once it's our property, you have to maintain the sidewalk for pedestrian traffic. So they're just some of the things that we came up with. Like I said, I don't want to be negative about it, but there are some costs that will be associated with the takeover.
Would you say then ballpark, we're talking about $30,000 to just get it in shape right now?
I figured about 14,000 to get us in. That's not including new fencing.
Right.
You'd have to put another 10 or 11,000 in there for fencing. Then an annual cost of probably about $9,000 to $10,000 a year to keep the place up. That's mowing every 2 to 3 weeks. You have your leaf cleanup. You have to send somebody in there for trash. Like snow removal. That sidewalk will become ours now, and you'll have to probably do some concrete. It was hard to see. I was down looking the other day, and it was kind of hard to see with the snow on the ground what exactly we had in there, but it looked like there were some concrete blocks that would need to be replaced out in the sidewalk out front. So you do have some work and some startup cost even just getting in the door there.
Right.
And then of course, you have your annual, you have leaves and, on the other hand, you have the liability issue, people knocking over gravestones, limbs. There's a condominium on the far side between the trail and the site, and you have to worry about tree limbs falling out and hitting people's cars, so there is liability issues there you should keep in mind also.
Thank you.
But is the site small enough that once we get it up to where it needs to be, we could have the Villanova volunteers come in and do a leaf cleanup twice a year or something? I mean, it's not that big of a, you get 20 volunteers in there to rake around the place. Would you agree with that, or?
And I think right now the volunteers seem to be doing a pretty good job. I'm not exactly sure why the township would want to take this on. I lived in that neighborhood, my neighborhood at home, and we also have the same situation going on where there's a abandoned grave cemetery around the corner about a half mile from my home. Same thing, and I just don't see the spin on turning it into a park.
Weren't we told, though, that the state's going to force us to take it anyway, so no matter what, we have to take it? Is that
Bob, can you answer
accurate
that
or no?
question?
Sure. I think what it is our solicitor has said that if there is a petition that's done, it would force the township to be able to do that. But, just to add on to these guys, maybe expand a little bit more, I mean, we're taking on a cemetery. I mean, really, that's what it is. And I don't think the township wants to be in the business of a cemetery. But also, I think, looking at this, there will be a new standard that will be an acceptable standard on behalf of the community, because the current condition that it's in will not be an acceptable standard to the residents. I mean, I think we need to be honest on that one. There will be a much higher level of maintenance. To say it's a park, I don't know many people that go to a cemetery to throw the ball around or take their kid up there to, it's a cemetery. With some of the events and activities to take place, again, being that's a cemetery, out of respect to those individuals that are there, it's something that if the township is forced to take over, it's something that possibly we look to turn that around very quickly, and maybe to the Historical Society or the veterans groups, and, sell that land for $1 or something, and then shift that responsibility. Because again, with the maintenance levels that they're going to have to take on, there is an expense that's going to have to be taken on. And when you look at, and I know the conversation we'll probably had in the Willows too as well, I mean, this is additional expenses that we are taking on for the cemetery. And I agree, I mean, it's something that we'll be forced to do, but again, those standards are going to change, and it will be an impact to our bottom line of what those costs will be on a regular basis.
Is the suggestion that, from the solicitor, for the township solicitor, that absent someone petitioning the township, someone actually instigating it, the township could passively not take over this property unless and until forced to do so?
That's true. But it'll continue to be an eyesore into the neighborhood until that particular time.
So it seems as if we really have a situation that if there's a general consensus that with 25 people signing a petition, which I don't think would be particularly difficult to do, we would be moving in that direction. The concern, obviously, is the cost associated with taking over a cemetery. Previously, I think the board commented that we don't see it, along with Bob's comments, as a park in the traditional sense. Out of respect for the property, we really wouldn't want to have a Halloween ball there. I know you were making a joke, but we do see it as an asset, an historical asset into the community. Are there other options? Is there the option of, rather than the township taking title to it, to have the Historical Society take title to it, or other options? Comments?
Well, has that come up with the Historical Society?
No, because under Pennsylvania law, usually what happens with abandoned cemeteries, the municipality has to take it over. So I don't know whether other private groups have done so in the past. I just don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Was Bob indicated if we took it over and then passed it on to you, would that be an option?
I don't know the legal ramifications.
Okay.
So.
I tend to think, and again, we're Park and Rec, and I don't see where this fits into Park and Rec. Like every other, group in the township, we're earning the cash. We have projects at the Yang Yang that should have been done 5 years ago, and keep on getting pushed off and pushed off. And now we're talking about another large lump, a significant lump of money that's going into something I don't think is a Park and Rec property. At least that's my personal feeling on this.
Well, some of that, as I mentioned earlier, we'd like to fundraise. So maybe the fencing and maybe some of the other costs can be done
Sure.
through fundraising and take that off. Yeah, we realize the cash situation as well.
Mhm.
And we'd like to bring in other people to get an incidence of ownership as opposed to just having a handout by government.
Right.
It's a much better way to operate.
Do you think that that the quick turnaround that was mentioned is something that's even on the table for your group and other groups? I'm just curious about that. I know, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but I mean, is that even a realm of possibility?
Quick turnaround for,
Well, the idea that township take it over and then turn it over to your group, a semblance of groups or whomever. I mean, you've talked about sort of group fundraising and things like that. I mean, you know, as was mentioned, you know, a dollar transaction cost here would be easily, I think, raised to be able to take over the property if we were to do that. Is that something that your group, or you think a semblance of groups would even be interested in?
well, I guess we'd have to look into the legalities of it first. So I really can't give
Yeah,
an honest answer.
Yeah.
I guess I share Tom's concerns that notwithstanding that all parks don't have to be active
No, I
parks
understand.
where you play ball, you know, you can have passive
Absolutely.
pocket park type things, but I do share your concerns, Tom, that, you know, right now, in the time of the Great Recession, and someone said that the recession's over. I haven't heard that.
I haven't felt it.
I haven't felt that. There should be some circumspection. There seems there's some complications and some issues that should be pushed through before this board were to make a recommendation up to the commissioners that the township voluntarily take this over, notwithstanding that within a week someone could sign some petitions and that process would have to be started, but it shouldn't necessarily come through this board, being the Park and Rec Board.
Other thoughts? Thank you, Mr.
Good.
Pollack.
Thank you. Thanks for your consideration.
Welcome. Coming back to the open air, Tammy, I would imagine that you're willing to take as an action item to secure a proposal and continue some discussions with Open Air Affairs in order to take that to the next step.
Yes.
Thank you.
And John, the commissioner is expecting us to make a call on the cemetery now, or, because I'm not sure if we feel like we're capable of doing that.
Has the commissioners even discussed this?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Well, and the Open Space Committee has this on their agenda for next Wednesday. And that group will go take all that we've learned and all the information we have, apply the criteria in our plan for open space,
Okay.
as opposed to parks, and then make a recommendation to the commissioners as well. So I'm not sure it's necessary that you make a recommendation, but, you know, some sort of statement as, you know, we don't feel this is our prerogative or whatever might be helpful.
Mhm.
And also, probably Mike, from you, a letter up that states the concerns.
Well, I think, and I'll try and paraphrase the comments that I'm hearing, is that we believe that the cemetery is of historical significance and should be preserved and should not allow to decline further. However, we don't feel that it has a park and rec use to it, and would prefer the exploration of more options before making a recommendation to the township or to the Board of Commissioners. Is that a fair
Or it's
characterization?
not even our place to make a recommendation.
I beg your pardon?
Or it's not even our place to make a recommendation.
Mhm. Any other comments, concerns?
Fine with that.
Thank you. The next item on old business was the 2011 proposed fee schedule.
Yes, the fee schedule, I had provided you all with a copy of a revision with some highlighted areas within the 2011 proposed fee schedule. I had made some adjustments to the version that you've previously looked at and voted on to support. So I wanted to take an opportunity to point out some of the changes further that I have made with the fee schedule in looking it over and reviewing it relative some different areas. So I wanted to kind of walk through that, so if you could take a look at that. The plan is right now that this proposed 2011 fee schedule will be presented to the Board of Commissioners on Monday, January 24th. So if you want to pull that out and look there, some of those changes that I have made in this version are the addition of illustrating the Radnor youth basketball fees. I thought it was necessary to put those in there since we're illustrating the camp fees with the day camp and the tot lot. So I've added Radnor youth basketball to that. I didn't recommend any changes in 2011 to where we are right now in 2010 with those fees. Under administrative fees, we would like to propose a change to make that a 10% refund fee, administrative refund fee, 10% of the total paid with a minimum of a $10 charge. Under the non-resident participation fee, I want to increase that by $5 for non-residents who participate in the programs. I didn't make any changes to the parks, picnic areas, fields, or facilities, advertising fees. Going forward into the Willows, I did meet with Mary, and we talked in detail about operating expenses and an attempt to try and align some of the fees under the Willows with operational costs. I did propose a change under the weekday, Monday to Thursday rental for nonprofits, for residents and non-residents. So if you take a look at that, I've raised that by $200 in both of those categories. Again, that's to more closely align with the operational costs that we deem that are associated with the facility for opening up for those types of events. I also added in the caterer fees, which we have. There's also a photo permit for when groups are taking pictures on the mansion and the grounds for weddings that aren't necessarily booking the Willows for a wedding. Those have been added in. We also have a weekday, Monday to Thursday corporate meeting fee for residents and non-residents. So those have been added in as well. Those are fees that we have always had. They just had never been illustrated on the fee schedule. Furthermore, looking at the activity center, some of the changes that I looked at in making there by making some comparisons to some of the local college facilities in terms of their gym rental fees and in terms of some of the private schools and the local public schools. I did propose a change to increase our per hour gym fee for the full gym by $10 for residents and non-residents. So you'll see that increased from $40 to $50 for residents and from $80 to $90 for non-residents. These fees were, like I said, evaluated basically in respect to some of the area charges that I was able to look at a lot more closely. In respect to, and that's in respect to community service groups or organizations that we work with, like the soccer club, youth sports associations, Wayne Senior Center, places like that. If you take a look at I have another illustration for the fee for business groups. Basically, I recommended those have an increase as well, taking the resident business group from $70 to $100 per hour for use of the gym, and then for the non-resident businesses, $140 to $150. I had omitted the half gym fees. I think without the ability to be able to use the divider, I just can't see putting a fee in there since we currently are unable to use that device to actually create a half gym situation. So I did omit those. I also had omitted, they had some fees that were listed in there previously with a 6-hour charge. They didn't offer a price break. It was just based on what the current per hour rate was. So I chose to take those out as well. I figured in the future we could look to perhaps implement those once we have, I think, room to be able to do that in terms of the demand for the facility. So in a nutshell, that pretty much captures some of the changes that I made, so I wanted to try and illustrate those for you. Those changes will be presented, as I had mentioned, to the Board of Commissioners on January 24th. So I ask that you support those fees, and
I move we accept the changes to the fees as Tammy illustrated.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Thank you, Tammy,
Thank you.
well done. Any other items that we want to talk about? Any comments from anyone here that they would like to share? I ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. Thank you.